Hey everybody, welcome to the backyard butchering shop. We're gonna turn animals into meat tonight. It's getting for real here. So let me set the stage for you real quick. The deer was killed probably an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. Heart shot, so I don't have to worry about gut material getting in and making the rest of the meat go bad. But I do want to take care of it quickly. I do want to remove the internal organs that cools the rest of the carcass down, and all the bacteria and stuff in the digestive tract. Those things are kind of turning on themselves and they're fermenting, and it's getting to be bad news. So you want to get the guts out as soon as possible. So the first order of business is going to be to unzip the belly, remove the entrails, the stomach, the intestines, all that kind of stuff. Pull it out, and then we'll remove what's left of the anus, and then crack open the pelvis. We'll cut up the chest cavity a little bit, take the heart and the lungs out, and by that point we'll be ready to put it on the gambrel, hoist it up, skin it, and then start deboning it. Once I debone it, I'll probably won't actually do the cuts of meat tonight. What I'll do is I'll put the chunks of meat in the fridge, let them age for a little bit, and give me a chance to get some sleep, because little Timmy has to go to work tomorrow morning, so I don't have all night to spend on this. So it's going to be a long process. Pop in, pop out, that's fine. Every now and again I'll pop around, because I can't see, if you're asking questions, I can't see them in real time, but I'll look around the back of the screen when I get a chance every now and again to see if you have questions and see if I can answer those for you. So settle in, it's going to be a ride. Part of the trick is getting all your stuff ready. So I've got a surgical glove, that's really all I need. I've got my Gerber gator knife with a gut hook on it. I love the gut hook. A headlamp for extra light that kind of points where I'm looking. So I'll be wearing that tonight. And then I went ahead and I got all my my Tupperware bins and napkin and all the paper towels, stuff that I'm going to use in the process to store the meat. Everything has to be out before you get started, otherwise you're traipsing in the house, getting blood all over everything, and no one is a fan of that. I've got this little depression in my backyard. What I like to do is put my deer on it, on a decline, so then the blood and entrails want to fall out with gravity. Can I get a sound check from someone watching? Just let me know if you can hear the audio okay. Or you don't have to, you can just silently watch and be kind of creepy. This is going to be a hard angle to watch from, but it's the best I can do with the light that I have. So I've got my fillet knife for some of the finer work, and I've got my Gerber gator knife for the gutting and for a little bit of skinning work. I'm going to pinch a little bit of the belly, and I can tell the belly's already getting taut from the gases inside. Cut open just a little bit. I don't want to cut through the fascia here and then the membrane that's holding the gut in place. I'll just take and kind of make a tiny little incision so I can slip the gut hook up inside. You see it's just ripping ripping it open like that, and you can start to see some of the really thin muscle. That is, anyone want to guess what that is wanting to pop out? That's the stomach. So I didn't get it fully cut open, but it's wanting to pop out regardless. It helps if you can give it some more room to fully come out. Because you do not want this to pop inside the body cavity, because then you run the risk of getting some of the stomach material on the meat. And you can already see the steam. That's heat leaving the body. And that's good. We want the heat to dissipate, to slow down the decomposition. Rigor mortis is setting in. These joints back here are really stiff. They'll loosen up again shortly, but right now they're tight. And obviously this was a female. Pretty much any 2.5-year-old deer that you shoot this time of year is going to have been nursing. There's no way around it. Alright, see if we got any questions. Dustin. Hey Tyler. How's the audio, guys? Does it sound good? Tyler's saying it sounds good. Great. Good. Alright, we're making some headway here. Alright, so I've already pulled out the heart. The heart is good for eating. It's all muscle. I mean, that's where that dirt nap deer broadhead sliced it really good there. This deer maybe went 30 yards and started popping wheelies and just spewing blood all over the place. So I will save the heart and we'll eat that. This is where having all of my dishes and tools and supplies out in advance is really helpful, because there's no way I'd want to go through the house with some of the stuff that ends up on the bottom of my boots. Okay, we got the liver out. I am just not a liver fan. I've tried to like liver, regardless of what kind of animal it comes from, and I just do not like liver. Don't like it. Alright. Kidneys are coming out. Alright, now, really we're just left with what's intact right now is the urinary tract and the large intestine. And if you're like me, I mean it's a Monday night, so that's the night to massage turds, right? If you're gonna massage turds, it's gonna be a Monday night. You know, they make a tool called the butt out, or some kind of butt thing. It's a terrible looking device. You stick it in the anus and then pull it back out. So what I started doing to keep turds from ending up in my meat, which you don't want, is I'll massage the large intestine, massage the turds way down, so to give myself plenty of room to work with. What I'm going to do is I will cut that off and then tie an overhand knot, so I don't have to worry about any feces getting back into my meat. I'm just tying an overhand knot in the large intestine. There, I don't know how well you can see that. Okay. Yeah, hey Terry. I am in my backyard, and yes, my neighbors think I'm a hillbilly. But I'm making Hank Williams Jr. proud, right? Okay, so this is the offal. It's OFFAL. This is the gut pile. And if you're a liver person, here's the liver. I'm not, otherwise, if I were, it wouldn't be on the ground with everything else. So, you know, it doesn't stink as bad as it probably looks. It does have a smell to it, but look, I mean, there's hardly any blood coming out of this deer. There's a little bit in the chest cavity, because that's where most of the trauma occurred, and that's not an organ there. That's just coagulated blood. But the only time deer really stink is if you hit them too far back and you bust open any of these, the large intestine or the gut. Then it really smells. So yeah, we're looking pretty good here. I can get this out of the way. Coyotes out here love me. So do the raccoons. Okay, so the next step, I don't have my saw with me. I'm gonna have to go in the garage and get that. But I'm gonna cut the groin area open and use a saw to cut through the pelvic bone. Cut that in half, break it, splay it open. That way I can cut out the rest of the anus, which is, I mean, what else are you gonna do on a Monday night? Cutting anuses. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. We got the bone saw. Bone saw is ready! This also functions as my tree trimming blade when I'm up in a tree and need to clear a shooting range. This is where it's nice to have a buddy, but I have no friends at all. I'm going to clear away the memories. For this knife, I can tell already needs a new edge on it. So I brought my sharpener out. I'll put a new blade, I'll put a new edge on it real soon. Working with a dull knife is not safe, and it really slows you down. And really right now, I probably ought to switch over to my fillet knife because this is more of a elegant type of cutting I need to do in here. I just want to get down to the pelvis. I can feel this joint wanting to pop as I work on it. You can see my little overhand knot is keeping all the scat inside. You hear the bone. Okay, we're going to see whose pelvis cracks first. Alright. Sometimes older, more mature animals will, their bones are thicker, their bones are denser. And so, so you have a more difficult time cutting through, but that really wasn't too bad. I'm going to finish off this cut. And I do have friends. They're just doing reasonable things right now. Putting their children to bed. Watching the debate. By the way, is this not better entertainment than watching Hillary and Donald go after each other? The answer to that question is yes. Okay, so now I've cut through to the point where I can begin. I make like a cylindrical cut inside this cavity to get the anus out. I know what I'm forgetting. This is my first deer for the year, so the first deer is always a little slower than the rest. What I forgot to do is I normally will put a brick or a stone or a piece of wood up underneath the tailbone, because then that kind of pushes the pelvis up and I can get more leverage and push down and break that pelvis real good. Something like that. Alright, so I'll bring it up on there. This will give me more. Yeah. See that? How that snapped now? Now I got access in here. Gently, gently, gently. Slicing away. So once I take off the connective tissues on the side, I can start to almost fillet it. Fillet it down. Oh, and this knife. It feels like it's sharp. there's a lot of fat in here. This time of year, there's not much fat on these animals in general, but they always have at least a little bit of fat back here around the end of the digestive tract. Slice, slice, slice. We're getting there. This is a part where you don't want to get in a hurry and rush and make a mistake, because practically, if a couple pieces of scat get on the meat, it's really not the end of the world. I mean, it's not like the deer is going to blow up and be unusable, but you just don't want that. You're gonna cook the meat, and there's probably things that are like 12 times worse that end up in your ground beef from the store. But you killed this animal, right? So you have high standards for how it's treated and what's in the meat, because your family, your friends are going to be eating it. Okay, so there's the colon that's loaded up. It's got all that scat in there, but none of it came out because I tied off the end. So right now we have a deer with no digestive tract, no pulmonary, no cardio. It's just bones and connective tissue and meat. The next phase is to get it up on the gambrel or the hoist. To do that, I'll put about a 2-inch slit back here between the ligaments. I use my fillet knife for that, so I can get my hand in there. That's really strong. The key to hanging a deer is to leave this big tendon intact. It's attached to this knee joint down here. If it comes unattached in the process of skinning or deboning, the gambrel, the deer will come off that side and swing, and that's never a good thing. So I'm going to take a quick break to check to see if you guys have any questions, and once I check the screen, then we'll hang it up on the gambrel. I think gambrel would be a good name for a kid. Okay, no questions. All right, phase 2, initiate. Alright, here's the gambrel. We put it together. It's really just it's a strong hanger essentially. And it slips in those slots that I cut just a few minutes ago. And then it goes onto the pulley. And this pulley is jacked up. Everything was in a pile in my garage this afternoon when I shot this deer, so nothing is in a very organized state right now, which ends up just making things take that much longer. You've got a mess to untangle. But I'm thankful for this deer, so I'll put up with it. Right now it's probably, I'm guessing, in the low 60s, and you may be able to see the heat, the steam escaping the carcass. That's good. That's what we want. Get this thing cooling down. Yeah, that's jacked up. That rope is all kinds of twisted. The problem right now is that I'd like this deer to be up higher. It's easier to work on if it's higher. I don't have to bend down so much. It's just a comfort thing. Try to keep my workspace clear from debris, of stuff I can trip on. Because I'm walking around with a knife at nighttime. I don't want to end up stabbing myself. Alright. Jace is on board. Hey, man. And Doug. Welcome aboard, guys. I'm going to see if I can move the light and get a better view of this deer. I wish there was a way that Facebook would allow for audio to come through. I could listen to what you guys have to say as opposed to having to read it. I'm not good at reading. Is the audio still okay? Yeah, it looks much better. I'll try to spin that deer around so you can see what's going on. Look at that. Oh man, look at that. Right there. Does anyone know what those are? That's gold. Those are the tenderloins. Okay, so the next phase is to get this thing skinned out. Skinning the deer allows it to lose heat a lot quicker. And again, I'm going to use the gut hook on my knife. I'm going to start with the legs. The trick for the gut hook to work is to put tension, is to get tension on the hide. Otherwise, it's not going to bite and cut. So I just put a big slice up there, and I can work my fingers in. Try to use my hands and fingers as much as possible when I'm skinning, because I think it pulls away more of the connective tissue than cutting. Cutting leaves some behind, but you also got to save your fingers. You got to save the dexterity in your fingers, because skinning out a whole deer just by hand is it's pretty fatiguing. And the older the deer, the more difficult they want to let go of their skin. A lot of times you can kind of work your hand inside, like so. See, I'm telling you, you guys could be watching Hillary and Donald got each other right now, but you're choosing to do something productive and watch me gut something that matters. I seriously do appreciate the folks that watch the videos and read my articles and all the cheerleading you guys do. It really means a lot, because there's just so much. There's so many options for your entertainment and for your information now. that anyone chooses to read or watch anything I do is extremely humbling and a little bit mystifying. But don't stop. Don't stop. In fact, I working on finalizing the October Thinking Woodsman podcast this week. It's like that. That show is launching on Saturday, which I think is October 1st. And we got some great interviews lined up. In fact, it will probably consist mostly of interviews. We got Gearhead Archery. We probably got Broadside Camo. Who else? Oh, anyone ever heard of Mossy Oak? Yeah, we got Cuz Strickland on the show from Mossy Oak. So that's awesome. It's going to be a pretty big show. I'm excited about it. Hope you guys are too. Let's straighten it out a little bit. Okay. That's better. Yeah, Jace, thankfully I didn't have to rely on calling for you to track. This doe died within my visual field, which is awesome. It was great to see it go down after that doe on Friday. The blood looks like in the shot, because I reviewed the shot on my camera, I clipped it in the liver and in the stomach. So that deer's dead, just not dead and in my freezer. Alright, just gut hook that. You know, this is probably the perfect temperature to be out here doing this work. It's cool enough to where the meat won't spoil right away, but it's not so cold that my fingers are going numb. My hand's getting all chicken fingered, which happens. You kill a deer in January and you come out here in the backyard and start working on it, and you're holding the meat just so that you can warm your hands up. Kind of like Han Solo cutting open the tauntaun on Empire Strikes Back and sticking Luke inside. Or, I guess they did that in The Revenant too. With that horse. You guys see that movie, The Revenant? Something about it just was unsettling. I mean, there were a number of unsettling things about it, but I think all the crawling around that Leonardo DiCaprio did, for some reason that just didn't sit right with me. Just made me feel uneasy. I don't know why. Again, I don't know if you can see all the steam rising off this thing, but that's a sign that it is cooling down. That's what we want. So what you got to be careful of is you're exerting a lot of force on this carcass, and so you're doing that, and it's an unstable object. It's a carcass hanging by a hanger, and you've got a knife in one hand. So you really always got to be thinking about where your energy is going to go if something happens to slip or give. You know, if a ligament gives way and the deer swings off the gambrel. We've also had scenarios. There we go. Get my hand through here. Scenarios where, you know, some of my buddies are out here. We're working on a deer at the same time, and it requires a lot of communication because the stakes are. I mean, the odds of you slipping or miscommunicating and nailing someone with your blade are pretty good when you got two people working, one high and one low, on the deer. Okay, I'm gonna see how far I can get with my hands right now. And this is one of those where grab and then get some leverage on it, and you pull. Tails don't normally come off like that. It's kind of a younger deer, so. See if I can spin this around so you can get a better look at it. Yeah. There we go. Yep, I can just feel the heat. It's losing a lot of heat now. Again, like I said earlier, I shot this deer in the heart, and it left a massive, massive pool of blood on the forest floor, which is great, because that means there's just less blood and less mess to worry about when I'm working on it here. So the shoulder, around the shoulder, things get a little trickier. We'll go down as far as we can, just pulling. But eventually we're going to have to do like a Y cut here. It goes down and then it Y's out to the legs. And you want to not get too far ahead of yourself, because you can make it hard to make those cuts down there. Alright. Time for a new edge. Knife maintenance is important, but you don't have to be a rocket scientist to put a good blade or put a good edge on your blade. These little like $4 Walmart dealies. It's two ceramic rods in here that are opposed to one another. It straightens that edge out, because that's really what a dull knife is. It's a knife whose edge is no longer symmetrical. It leans to one side or the other, or has divots in it. So this molecularly smooths out and makes that edge symmetrical again, and it ought to bite the top of your thumbnail at a 45-degree angle, and this does. So that's good. Okay. So again, we're going to have to cut almost a Y shape into the brisket skin here. Yep. I went a little too far. Tell you what, just getting out to shoot the deer, that is the easy part. Well, the rest of this is really where the work is. I saw 2 turkeys tonight, 2 hens. They did not come into range, which is too bad. There we go. Alright, now I'm into the leg skin. Alright, so I got that cut down. Now for the other leg. For the guys that work at the slaughterhouses and the meat processing plants, deer season comes, they just rip through these things like it's nothing. I think I would only enjoy working on my own deer. There's something about doing it all myself that I really get satisfaction from. If my job were to take care of other people's deer, I don't think I would be as excited about that. we're getting close to having this thing skinned out. Once we do get it skinned out, and I'm getting hot now because I'm actually working. Once we do get it skinned out, then the next phase is going to be starting to debone the meat. Anytime you see stuff like that, that's what a bruise looks like under your skin. It's a subdermal hematoma. That's loose blood under the skin. And most of us, those things heal up and they go away. The blood gets reincorporated. But when this deer died, so its wounds were beyond that which it could heal from. So you get to see what that looks like, what these wounds look like under the skin. Okay, so I just got a wad of deer hair on my hands. And that's not happening. You notice I'm pretty much hair free. And I don't want hair in my meat. I don't want to be eating a venison burger that's got a bunch of extra fiber in it. So if you do it like I do here, usually you don't get a whole lot of hair because you're just working with the inside of the hide. Every now and then you eat a little bit. It's not going to kill you. It's just kind of a point of pride that my meat is clean, sanitary. You don't have to worry about surprises in it. That's another great thing about bow hunting is that when you shoot a deer with a rifle or a slug, you got to worry about lead fragments from the bullet. And unless you shoot a deer with your broadhead and it doesn't pass through, this completely passed through, there's no foreign bodies inside this deer. Typically, every now and again, I was telling the guys, Jason and Jared, the guys that my buddies that helped me recover this doe tonight, every now and again you'll hear stories of someone shooting a deer and they're processing them and they come across a broadhead or an arrow fragment inside the deer from a previous shot, and usually the broadhead is surrounded in like scar tissue that the body kind of walled off the foreign object, and the deer survived. It just survived with the broadhead still inside of it. So you can never be 100% sure there won't be a foreign body in here, but you archery kill a deer, likelihood of there being something sharp or dangerous inside that you got to watch for when you're processing it or when you're eating it are pretty slim. You ever wonder, I've grown up fishing, and way back in the day when, they're still prevalent, but we just treat them differently, lead sinkers. And I don't know the thousands of lead sinkers I've bit with my teeth to crimp down on my line. You just wonder what effect that's going to have health-wise on you. Lead's so bad for your blood. So, alright, we're getting down now to the neck, brisket and neck area. Just getting through the underarms here is always probably the most challenging part for me for skinning a deer. But we're getting there. Come back out here and get some leverage. This deer is not very big, not very old, so there's not a whole lot of brisket meat or neck meat. Some of that, less desirable cuts, but still stuff you don't want to waste. Try to recover everything you can on the animal. because that's just the right thing to do. You don't want to waste. The neck gets a little hard because the neck has a lot of this real thin muscle layer that my gut is that's what kind of quivers and shakes to get the bugs and ticks off. That tail's got to come off. That's ridiculous. Whitetail deer. Usually you can find a spot between bones and just cut it off real simply. Question time. Who's got questions? Anyone? Is anyone even here? Joe. Hey, man. Would someone mind going to get me something to drink? Kind of thirsty. All right. It's 10:20. I find the later it gets, the more tempted I am to take shortcuts. So I have to kind of know that about myself. Try not to do that. What do you think? Does it look tasty? Did you eat it? Now, as an aside, the hide is usable if you want to tan it. A lot of people tan deer hides. It's a lot of work, and it involves a fair amount of chemicals and or brain organs mixed into a slurry. There's just no easy way of tanning a hide. You can, however, preserve a hide for use as a wall hanging. It'll be rigid. It won't be flexible. And pretty much you just take it off the deer, put it out on a flat, concrete, clean surface with the flesh side up, and get the right aperture on a power washer, and hit it with the power washer, and it'll blow all this muscle tissue and any of that flesh off the hide to where you just get a clean, bright white hide, and then you borax it. You dry it and borax it. While the deer is still, while the meat is moist, and so the meat will eventually dry out. It gets kind of a bark on it if you let it age, but I try to come through and trim off some of this fascia. I'm not doing a very good job of it right now. This is the stuff that you don't want to chew, because this will, it's already, when it dries, it kind of turns into a, I don't know, like a wax papery, hard, brittle, but still strong consistency. And you don't want that on your meat. At least I don't. So if I can come through, there's kind of I found there to be kind of a perfect stage where you let this meat sit out in the breeze for a little bit, and this stuff, these sheets that are over the muscle tissue, the membrane, dries out and is easier to work with. It's easier to pull off. I don't really have that option tonight. I got to get this deer in the fridge tonight because I don't have time tomorrow morning to work on it. Yeah. I'm tired. I am tired. But I'm happy, you know? Happy tired. Okay, so here's something I can show you. Hey Andy. Inside the cavity, right along the spine, just before the pelvis. You and I have these also. These are the tenderloins right here and right here. And they are the most tender, tasty pieces of meat on the deer. And they're surrounded usually by this kidney fat, which I've heard is really good to eat. I have not eaten it before. There's very little fat on a deer that is tasty. It's not like a cow or a pig where the fat has a sweetness to it. A lot of times on younger deer, I can get my hand in here and just kind of feel for the seam and pull the tenderloins out. This one is not gonna do it, so I'm just gonna make a cut right along the spine, and then get my fingers up underneath there. Start to work them back and forth. Try to cut as little as I can on the tenderloin. Try to leave them as intact as possible, and kind of fillet them away. There you go. Oh yeah. And they go up almost to the ball joint of the hip, and they're encased in kind of a sheath of additional fascia. So you kind of have to release them from that with just a little surface laceration. One of the things I like to do is the next morning after I kill a deer, so my hand is all the way up in there. I don't want to miss out on that good tenderloin that's up in there. The morning after I kill a deer, oftentimes I'll eat one of the tenderloins for breakfast. Maybe do it with some eggs. So yeah, that's a beautiful. It really is just such a tender cut. So I keep those separate. Tenderloins stay separate from the rest of the meat, and so do the back straps. We'll do the back straps next. This is part of the abdominal muscle wall there. If you shoot a yearling, especially a yearling doe, boy, these just peel right out. And I am not opposed to shooting yearling does. Not around here, I'm not. We have so many does in this neck of the woods, out in kind of West County, St. Louis area. So we got to kind of bring those numbers back into check. Okay. Tenderloins are removed. The next most valuable piece of meat on the deer the back straps. Okay, any questions or comments? So Jace wants me to share my tenderloins with him, I think. Okay. Thanks, Beth, for prepping the fridge. I appreciate it. It's nice when your wife is on the same page as your outdoor pursuits, or your husband if you're a woman that likes to be outdoors. Alright, I'm repairing the blade, or repairing the edge. So we're going to take out back straps, run down here, and they kind of terminate in a tapered V down here on either side. And this fascia material, the silver skin, some people call it, is really thick. And what I'll do is sometimes I'll go through and I'll peel some of it off before I start to work on it. You see how it's getting that kind of papery, like thick saran wrap texture to it, like I had mentioned earlier. If you can cut that away, it lets the meat start to age a little quicker too, which I like. It's not going to age any appreciable amount, but it'll start. That's fine. It's the little things, right? I'll peel that away. That's all. So this is the stuff that I don't think most butchers, like if you go to you pay to have your deer processed, I don't think most places are going to take the time to do these extra steps that really make the finished product just that much more enjoyable to eat. You know, everyone knows someone that has had venison before, and oh, it's tough, or it's gamey, it's stringy, it's nasty. And my gut is that they had it prepared by someone who didn't care for it the way they should have. So you will make mistakes when you process your deer. Just assume you will make mistakes, and don't freak out about it. You'll learn. You'll figure it out. Like, I lost a little bit of meat right there. That was I cut it a little too deeply with the fillet knife, and I lost some meat. I hate to lose meat, but it's not that big of a deal. I think some people are so afraid of making a mistake that they just don't even bother trying, and as a result, miss out on a lot of learning and a lot of growth. All right, that's good enough. The reason I don't worry about taking all that off is that I guess I don't really need this anymore. Is that once I take the back straps out, I'll flip them over, and just like I'm filleting a fish, I'll fillet that silver skin right off. It'll come off in a nice uniform piece. Well, the cut of meat kind of terminates back here by the pelvis. It turns into a different kind of meat up around the tail. I'll try to do this in a way that you can. Okay. Too much stuff going on here. Okay. Just gonna try to sit down. I need this nice stuff. Oh, sitting down. It's good to sit down. I like doing that. I'm going to follow the spine as closely as I can, probing with the tip of my blade, making sure I'm getting down to the rib cage. And you see right here there's a seam in the meat. the seam kind of tells you that the back strap is running out. It's being overlaid by some shoulder meat. We're getting down there. Okay, a pretty big piece of sinew in there. So underneath the back strap is the rib cage, and I will put tension on the back strap and get in there with just the tip of my blade and just touch the meat, and if I'm doing it right, it ought to fillet away. I don't know if you can see that or not. I hope so. So this is my longest Facebook streaming session. I hope it's instructive. If it's not instructive, it will have at least been organic, because it involved so many organs. You probably noticed I still have my hunting clothes on. Oh, come on. I don't typically like to process a deer in my hunting clothes, but whatever. Busy night. Alright, remember that tapered shape I was talking to you about? That goes all the way down into the shoulder. So that's a back strap right there. That's probably the second best quality cut of meat on a deer. The grain is really fine on it. I'll cut this up into thirds. So a third, and fillet that silver skin off of it. You can butterfly it. You can cut it into like fajita meat. There's just you can make steaks out of it. It is the best meat aside from the tenderloins. So we're going to do the same thing over here. Get a different angle on it. I think, no matter where you're butchering your deer, the more comfortable you can be, the better results you're going to have. So if the deer is stuck on the ground, which in some cases you just don't have an option to get your deer up in the air and work on it, you're probably going to leave some meat behind. And maybe that's you're in a backcountry scenario and you just don't have a choice. But the more you can set things up ahead of time and think about your convenience and comfort, the better result you're going to have, the less meat you'll waste, which ultimately is a testament to how much you value this resource, this animal that died. So this deer is coming to you compliments of a dirt nap deer broadhead tonight. This is the first deer I've killed and recovered with a dirt nap deer broadhead. And I'll post some pictures probably tomorrow, in the next couple days here, of the wound, but it was significant. Alright. I always feel like I'm holding up a nice walleye or something when I pull the back strap out. Like I'm proud of the length of that. Okay, a status check. 2 tenderloins, 2 back straps, and the heart in there. Alright. see if there are any questions. Alright. Terry's getting her first experience seeing a deer being dressed, so that's cool. Terry, you could do a baking shop slash deer processing facility with your state inspected kitchen. Yeah, Jace, it's the heart meat it definitely has a different texture to it. You trim out the ventricles, you trim out the fat that's around it, the pericardial fat. But other than that, you can pretty much treat it like any other kind of meat. I don't know that you would want to eat it straight up. Like I like to make something out of it. You could also grind it in with your burger. It's really not that big of a deal. In fact, if anyone eats summer sausage from Walmart or any kind of big box store or grocery store, look at the ingredients, and I'm betting that if it doesn't say beef and pork hearts, it will say made with all beef or all pork or something like that, which the heart on a cow or a pig is still considered beef or pork. And our slaughterhouses don't waste a whole lot. Alright, the next steps, there's a ton of meat here in the hams. We're short on ground venison right now in the Chelswick deep freeze. So I'm gonna cut most of those out and not really pay much attention to the steaks and the different cuts because I'm just gonna grind it up anyways. If you were gonna make roasts, this is the part of the deer where you would make your roasts from, and you really just follow the seams in the meat to cut out the individual muscle groups to make your roasts. I just want to grind it up and make some burgers, some chili. So watch this. This tendon that I referenced earlier, it has to stay intact, otherwise this gambrel component goes flying and the deer falls to the ground. Not what I want. So I had to leave some meat on the bone. Alright, there's a big chunk of meat there. And in a couple days, when I get time to get to it, I will pull all that meat out of the fridge and start to trim the silver skin off of it, and all the connective tissue that I can, and throw it in the grinder. I like to baby my grinder. I don't want a bunch of connective tissue going into it. Because if it makes it out, it's going to make its way into my meat, and I don't want to have chewy burgers. A chunk of meat there. So we're getting down to the bone here. I like to work symmetrically on the deer, not because you have to, but it just balances things out. If something's gonna break, I'd rather it break symmetrically than asymmetrically and swing back and hit me or something. That's a big chunk of roast there. A lot of grinding meat here. I almost asked who's winning in the debate, like it's a sporting event or something, but somehow I get the get the sense that we're all losing in this one. I don't know. It's just me. Okay, I'll come back for that. So the more I take off, the less weight there is on this carcass, so the less drastic things shift if the carcass were to fall off. So that's definitely good. I don't want to take off too much meat around this ball and socket joint, around the hips, because that meat helps keep that joint stable and in place. If it's not stable, the deer could come down on me. I don't want that. Alright, look at that. We are really making some headway, gang. Whew. Still waiting on someone to go get me something to drink, though. Thirsty. Okay, so what's next? I'll trim off a lot of this a little later on. You guys don't need to see that. Shoulders are next. This deer is not very big. Let me tilt down. Terry's question about how many pounds of meat I'll get out of this one deer. I'm terrible at estimating weight. That's something I wish I were better at. This is probably 12 pounds of meat in this container. This is just the roast. This is probably 8 pounds of meat. So right now I'm looking at 20 pounds. I've yet to take off the shoulder meat, and the shoulder meat is filled with connective tissue, and it's just, shoulder meat is typically considered something that you would grind up, because it's so compartmentalized with all this silver skin. So there's not really a whole lot here to eat. So, but I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to debone it. This is the shank right here. The shank is really difficult to utilize, because it's your forearm. It'd be like gnawing on your forearm. There's not a whole lot there. So a lot of times, like if I have a table out here, I'll just totally detach. I'll show you what it looks like. I'll detach the shoulder, because the shoulder is not attached by a socket like the hips are. It's just this plate here, and the plate is attached with muscle. So again, I'm not really worrying about what the cut looks like. I'm just trying to get this grinding meat off. I'm trying to utilize as much as I can. The brisket down here, I think I hit this deer in part of the brisket, so yeah, I did, down here. So it may not all be edible. You typically don't want to eat meat that's been traumatized with force, because it's bloody and it just it tastes different, because it's got all the extra chemicals rushing to it to try to repair it unsuccessfully. Right now, this animal is cold. The meat is cold. So here's the brisket. Not much there. On a bigger deer, an older deer, there'd be more there. It'd also be tougher. Again, that's probably meat for the grinder. Brisket didn't come, like barbecue brisket hasn't come into vogue until modern times. You know, barbecue guys have made something of it. For a long time it was just considered a throwaway piece of meat that no one wanted anything to do with. Again, this here is a wound. I think that's an exit, part of the exit wound. I'm not positive, so I'm gonna cut around that. Did I mention I was tired? Because I am. Beth, if you're still watching, if you wouldn't mind grabbing me something to drink and bringing it out, that would be awesome. Okay. The neck on this deer is pretty tiny, so I don't think there's much usable meat on the neck, so I'm not gonna spend time trimming neck meat on a deer of this size. Okay. I'll trim off some chunks. Chunks around here. This meat back here in the ham of the deer is probably some of the gamiest meat. Like if there is gamey meat on a deer, this is gonna be it. Back here, it's just really strong. They're the hind legs. Those are the muscles they use the most, and the most where they require the most effort, pushing forward. So this deer, I'm going to cut this away here. This is not going to be usable meat. So this is an experiment. I sometimes do and sometimes don't. Depends on how much connective tissue is in here. But like these thin layers of muscle here, you know what that makes good? Jerky. And if I don't want to make jerky, I'll just grind that up. But that's usable meat. So I get down to the rib, and again, like this is clot from the arrow that went through it. But I can go through here. I'll put another edge on my blade. I hear stirring in the house. Someone got me something to drink. Hi. Yeah. My wife got me some Gatorade. Awesome. So I'm going to go through and cut the rib meat out. And I will grind that up too. Try to get as much of this connected fascia material off of it, but invariably some of that will end up in the grinder. And what I find happens is that like this white material, this membrane wraps itself around the spindle of the grinder and gets caught. Doesn't end up in the meat actually, which is good. But you do have to go in and clean it out. I'm not going to go too far down because I don't want to get into the damaged meat. So that got damaged there. Oh, let me do a check for questions. Emily's on board. Hey, Alright, so the other side we're gonna get symmetrical with it. This side's good down to here. This is the, I think this is the entrance wound over here. So I gotta remove the shoulder like I did. Yeah. Again, the shoulder meat, it's not the tastiest, it's not the tenderest. I'll probably grind that up. Just cut the shoulder away here to get at the ribs a little easier. Uh-oh. Did you hear that? There's coyotes out in the back field that are probably licking their chops right now. Just gonna try to clear this away so I can get just at the red meat. Okay, here we go. Red meat, take 2. So, earlier I mentioned this is my first time doing a long form Facebook live stream like this. I don't know, you guys familiar with Bob Ross and his work? You think maybe I have a career in a Bob Ross style wild game prep show? Instead of happy little trees, I'll say like tender little rib cuts. Maybe it'll be like the Julia Child of the bow and arrow. Kind of got a ring to it. Happy little trees is right. This deer is pretty much disassembled. I'm guessing I have between 25 and 30 pounds of meat from it. And if it were a bigger deer, I would spend more time on some of the shoulder areas and stuff. But I've recouped most of the usable meat off this animal. So as it stands right now, I'm going to go over, give it a once over, just make sure I didn't miss anything. But we're pretty much to the point of, I'll take this in, take all these piles of meat in, just because I don't have time tonight. Take them in the house, put them in the fridge, and let them age a little bit in there, and let me get some rest. Because little Timmy has to work tomorrow, like a regular guy. And maybe tomorrow night I'll get the grinder out and the cutting board, sharpen the fillet knives up again, and get to work on packaging all this. The bomb-proof way. My buddy Carl showed me this a few years back, and I've kept deer meat sometimes accidentally for 3 and 4 years, just because it kind of goes to the bottom of the deep freeze. You forget about it. Um, I'll do the cuts, trim them up, and then put them in saran wrap, burp all the air out of them, and then around the saran wrap I'll put butcher paper, tape it up, label it, and put it in the fridge, and put it in the freezer. And that combination of saran wrap and butcher paper just creates an impermeable seal. The air doesn't get in. It doesn't get freezer burn. It stays good for a long, long time. And it takes some extra time. It's probably more work than most people do in processing their own deer. But if I'm going to put the time in the field and the time at the range to shoot good, to kill an animal like this, I don't want the meat to go bad. It doesn't make sense to me. So, guys, thanks for joining me tonight. I appreciate having the company. I'm glad you got to learn a little bit and see this in action. It's doable. It's not something you have to have a degree to do. You just got to take some time. It's helpful if you can have someone to show you how to do it, figure it out, and just keep doing it over and over again. And you too can disassemble your own deer and make venison. Good night, everybody.